Welcome everybody to again release webinar. I'm here together with Sean and Juan from Servoy. My name is Ron Vandenberg. We're a bit late this time because it's our March the 03 release, but we're really excited in this new, completely almost crazy era of AI. And you can understand we're really busy with that. And so this webinar, as I think was also mentioned in the announcements, is a lot about AI. So yeah, Sean has prepared a nice slide deck and some demos. So yeah, Sean, you can take it away.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, we are late, and that's probably my fault because every time I thought about doing the webinar, things were changing so fast, and we were doing new stuff that I thought, well, we should wait until we have more to show. And then so eventually I said it's getting already now past the .3 release a while. So let's show what we have. Unfortunately, I think that it's quite exciting what we've been up to the past even few weeks. So I'm ready to get into that. Bit of housekeeping. We don't have any polls for you, but we do ask that you put your questions directly into the chat panel. Tuan and Ron will help moderate that. We can answer them directly, or they can stop me and interrupt me, or save them at their discretion. So don't worry about being shy. Just type them in, and we'll get to them. We will share the recording too, so you don't have to take screenshots or take notes or anything. Just relax and listen. The agenda is, as Ron said, is all about AI, and I'm sort of calling it an AI maturity check because that is kind of what we've done internally at Servoy, is take a look at ourselves. Where are we on adopting AI in the company, in the product, with our customers? So I wanted to reflect that back into what we do in this webinar, and also ask that you sort of do a kind of a self AI maturity check, and we'll talk about what that means. And then we really have two tracks on AI, and we have from the beginning, because we ship a product that is meant to help developers build business applications. AI affects both sides of that. It affects how you build applications, but also what do you build. And we've been focused on both. And if you were in the last update webinar, we really focused on what we call the runtime track, which is really putting AI features and capabilities into the products and the applications that you build. It was a bit more concrete, and also I think a bit more focused on value. But of course, everyone is excited to get all the goodies and go faster and do more powerful things on the developer track. So this webinar is a bit more focused on the developer track, but we will do an update on where we are on the runtime side of things as well. At the end, I like to do a general product update. I'm not getting into features of the release so much as kind of our roadmap and some announcements that we have. And then we'll ask you to how you can get involved in what we're doing. So onto the developer track, and I want to start with kind of a slide. This is not my slide. This is from a prominent engineer, Steve Yagi, who I think is on the bleeding edge of AI-powered software development and orchestration. And this was his slide of the sort of AI maturity level. And it's really 3 levels, the early adopter, the power user, and if you're into the orchestrator level, and inside of that, these sort of more fine-grained levels. We had a summit back in March with a few of our customers in Amsterdam at our headquarters, and we also put this slide up, and we went around the room and asked where everyone is, and ourselves included, where Servoy is. And we were, I think, still in the level, not level 1, but the early adopter, somewhere around 4, maybe getting into 5. Since we had that workshop in March, I think Servoy as a company internally is moved to 6, and we're looking at 7 in terms of where we want to get to this year. And we also want to reflect that back into what we share with our community as well, and make sure that we're giving you the tools you need to bring this power into your software development experience. So maybe I don't have a poll, but if you want to kind of think to yourself where you are, if you recognize these things, agents and YOLO mode and multi-agent, and if you want to send us in a chat, you're welcome to, but I'm not going to ask for a formal poll here in this Teams meeting. But this is sort of, I think, to set the stage of what we're looking at on the developer track. We really want to help you guys get to a bit more agentic development, and if that's a brand new term, I would just define it as you're not really writing code by hand at all. You do spend time in an IDE to review things, or for some of the tooling that's also in the IDE, like debugging and those sorts of things. But this is really, you've moved to the point of having like what we shipped in the last few releases was like some more powerful code complete and some like a helper agent inside the IDE, but moving a bit more towards prompting an agent and having that agent sort of govern what gets written code-wise and how it gets written. And that's in some of the demos I'm going to show. Looking at where we want to get to, we see our role is in helping you guys to implement agentic development at the full software development lifecycle. So right now we're heavily focused on kind of the first 3, maybe 4 boxes in this array here. But we really see that, yeah, once you get going with this and you start automating things and doing things with natural language and prompting and context engineering is a big word. Then you start to think like, yeah, why aren't we doing this on the pipeline side? On the, like in Servoy Cloud, on our build pipelines, on the ops side for using AI to monitor and fix applications. And I think my ultimate dream would be that you have a kind of monitor that's watching an application. It sees maybe an error in the log file or some kind of pattern, and it can directly create a case from that, have another agent pick it up, design and build the fix, and make a pull request against your repository, and you can go in as a kind of the lead architect and review it and commit it and solve most of your patching, in a full cycle like that. But we think that we can deliver at least the first 3 or 4 boxes here this year, and we think in the next release, because we've been quite busy on this, and I want to give you a preview. This isn't really, again, this is not really about what's in the 2026.3 release. That's a bit of a bridge release to help us get to the next level. So this is a bit more of a preview in what's coming. So the first demo I have here is how do you do this agentic kind of coding on an existing application. Maybe it has a large complex code base. If it's Servoy, a lot of forms, a lot of database tables. And to take this multi-agent kind of linear workflow and apply it, where you kind of create a design to the solution, you do a refactor in the solution, you review it, you write an end-to-end test, maybe you write some documentation, and you do that kind of end-to-end before you kind of review it as a human and then commit it. So one thing that I found with these, I'm going to switch over to my browser, and we should be looking at a Jira ticket. Guys, let me know if you don't see that. But one thing that I found is that it's really hard to make demos of agentic development. I much prefer to like show Servoy features, because I can build something and run it in the debug client and demo it, and it's very nice and compact. But for the agentic development, there's kind of a long-winded flow to it. But I do have some screen recordings to help speed this along. But let's just start here with the Jira ticket. And what we've done at Servoy ourselves to try to get into this agentic mode is to work on our own product, which in this case, Servoy Cloud, is an application that is itself built in Servoy, and it's meant to manage the software development pipeline and production hosting in Servoy Cloud. But we use our own tooling to build that. So we have already a nice, large, complicated application to manage. We have Jira tickets that come in, either support cases, or in this case, like a small fix or enhancement. And what we've done is set up a multi-agent pipeline to coordinate that. And we no longer are writing that code by hand directly. What we prefer to do is something people call spec-driven development, is create a nice case or a nice spec. You give it to an orchestrator agent or a planning agent. That agent plans how it's going to be delivered, and then hands it off to the next agent or the next set of agents. And that's what I'm going to show you here. This is an actual case in the Cloud Control Center. It has to do with showing the cluster location. So we have we have our compute clusters for Servoy Cloud, and we have several cluster locations for that. In this case, we want to be able to see the ones that are in Stockholm, Sweden, actually rendered in the Cloud Control Center. And then there's just some details about like the acceptance criteria. So this is what actually gets fed into the AI. We're not saying like build this form, write this code. That's what we were doing a few months ago, but we've moved beyond that. So I'm going to go to my next. Guys, you can see my my browser and the Jira ticket, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now I move to the next tab. This is actually inside the coding agent workflow that my colleague at Managing Servoy Cloud is using to work on that ticket. And he has it set up as like a pipeline where he could just basically pick a ticket. You can see it there, the SCCC 21 or 2812. He can pick that ticket and say, go ahead and operate on this ticket, because all the prompting is already built in to the ticket. I'll start to play this, but really what you'll see that this is, oh wait, this is at the end. Hang on. I'll start to play this there. He says fix or implement. That ticket, that was the only prompt that he made. This gets handed off to like an orchestrator agent, which starts to, says, good, I have the ticket, let me look at the code base. But that agent, they start to make a plan, and then it's going to pass it off to the various sub-agents to do the development. There's a review process, there's an actual test process, and then until it's finally passes everything, and then it's ready to be merged and or to be committed and merged. So you can see as it starts going, if you look at the time down here, this is 9 minutes end to end. So to build this ticket is 9 minutes of agentic development. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch the agents think for 9 minutes. But what I will do is kind of pause that and go to, I have sort of where it drills in by sub-agent. Just let me get this back to the beginning. So this is now inside the developer agent. You can see right there, he's clicking into the sub-agent. So now you're sort of like, each agent has its own kind of context. And so this is what the developer agent's concerned with. You can see like it's making UUIDs and adding a label and going through all of the steps to operate on this solution. And you can see right here, I'll pause it for a second. Here's the files that it's changed, right? It's updated a calculation. It's updated. It's writing some files for the next agent too. There's a whole handoff process. I won't get too much into the details, but this is the developer agent. This agent's going to hand it off to the review agent, and you can see that it's writing the review request MD file. And it goes in that handoff folder for this ticket. So it's like a work ledger where this is the ticket, but then there's what each agent is doing on that ticket. So these are all the files that get updated by this agent, and they're there in the sort of the Git diff view. So that's kind of what that looks like. Now you can see it clicks into the review agent. I have another video for that. Go in here. And so this is now, this is the, sorry, that was the review agent. I kind of clicked out of that. The review agent, what it did is it it takes, there's a lot of governing kind of context about how things should be done in Servoy, and also how things should be done for this project, like the domain specific knowledge or intelligence. The reviewer kind of reviews against that to make sure everything matches the way it's supposed to. Here it's handing it off to the end-to-end test part. And there, so you can see the end-to-end tester agent tab right here. And then you can click into that and you can see some of the Cypress TypeScript code and that sort of thing. And then if I click along here to the changed file and the result. So this is, I kind of showed this already with some of the changed files, but you can see let me just go right back a couple clicks, because this should be familiar to Servoy folks. You can see the dashboard cloud plan.frm. That's the actual form file, right? So it's operating on the form file, and you can see the JSON payload for that form file. This is the expanded view of the file that was operated on. So, and you can see the other, like the calculation files. And so it's writing code, it's writing UI, and it understands where to find things in that solution. And you can see if I pause right there, where my colleague was highlighting, it did add a label. So it built a calculation for like what cluster it is, because we have clusters in different geographies. And it made the label, and it inserted the label into this large complicated solution. So this is a real production solution. This is a complex code base. This is a responsive design application. It has API calls, it has calculations, it has all kinds of complexity in it. And these agents are reading a JIRA ticket and making this surgical fix. And here you can see the results showing up here in the UI. If I move on to the next video.
Hey, Sean, got time for a quick question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Victor's asking, how are we getting the UUIDs? Is that from an MCP server or something else?
Someone who asked about UUIDs has tried this before. Yeah. So the UUIDs are the unique identifiers that are on like literally every element in a Servoy application, every component, every form, every calculation, whatever. And those are typically generated in the IDE automatically for you, and they're guaranteed to be unique. And if you try this, like if you try AI agents or Claude Code or something on Servoy, you'll get a lot of tricky results for UIDs. In this case, I haven't really got into how we're controlling it to know Servoy. This is not just like, this is what you're seeing here is an open code session. Open code is like an open source Claude Code with the multi-agent configuration and everything. And we're providing it a lot of guardrails to understand how to do things in Servoy. So if you just open up your Servoy workspace and open up Claude Code or Copilot or something and say start working on it, it's going to make all kinds of mistakes. And one of the things that it really struggles with is UUIDs. It'll do like 1 1 2 2 3 3. It'll make these things up. It'll make duplicates. It'll search like the whole workspace to see if the UUID it made is going to be unique, which you don't have to do if you do it right. So In this case, there's a script to make the UIDs. We initially thought we would have an MCP endpoint for it, but there's just a tool, like a skill or a tool that it's calling to make the UID. But there's a lot of stuff like that, and I'll get into like what we've actually made here, and how we can deliver it. So that's a good question. I hope I answered it, but we did account for the UIDs here. All right, in this, this is just showing inside the IDE where it also may see that cluster location up here, your cloud plan cluster location. So it made a data provider, in that case, a calculation. It placed the label with the %%, kind of data label tag. And that's just showing that, yeah, you can open this up in the IDE and review also what was done. And this is the end-to-end test writer. This is my favorite part because end-to-end test writing scares me, and I'd rather have an AI do it. So let me fire this up in full screen. So this passes control after it did the implementation. It passes control to the end-to-end test. You can see the agent says, "Can you now also write the end-to-end test?" And that spins up the end-to-end tester. And it's writing a test. Won't make you watch it think for 2 minutes. Actually, don't know what it there. So you can see it starts writing, and this is directly into the folder that's under revision control. That actually, if you're a Servoy Cloud user and you use the pipeline to do automated end-to-end testing, those go in and can actually run in Servoy Cloud. So that was it, just writing the test code, something that I said I'm scared to do. I'd rather have the agent do it. But I think what's nice to see is to see it run the test. So this is a local, just want to make sure that run EDWE test. Yeah, this is a local instance. I have to get to the beginning. So this is not this is us running the test kind of for you to see. The test actually gets run in the Servoy Cloud pipeline, but you can see that it's logging in, and it goes through, and there it flashed for a second. It does it again. I'll go back here and pause it. So there it is, that cluster Sweden, but it also writes it so that there's an assertion that, and I don't know if you can catch it in the side here, but there will be like an assertion that the value is there as well. But that just shows you kind of like it did the whole thing from a Jira ticket without the developer having to write the code or write the test. And if you do end-to-end testing and you run in Servoy Cloud, or you don't have to run in Servoy Cloud, you build in Servoy Cloud, you can automate your UI tests that way. Same for unit tests as well. So that is the surgical fix demo. Just to give you a, can you guys see the slide deck again? Just want to make sure the transitions work.
Yep, it's there.
Okay, yeah, just to give you like a recap of what you just saw, is that what we've made to make that possible is a kind of intelligence layer or a context. The word context gets used a lot in AI. Just sort of an enrichment layer around the Servoy environment that facilitates the agents, coding agents, AIs to be able to operate on Servoy, because a lot of Servoy stuff is not really in their base training the same way that a low-level language might be, like Java or something. So we provide that is sort of those foundational knowledges. And you hear the word skills a lot if you do some AI development. So we provide like a skills layer, and then also an MCP connection to the IDE. So essentially, MCP is Model Context Protocol. It's basically like an API that the AI can access to call tools. To also get information, but primarily to call tools. So there was the question from Victor about the UID. Like Servoy could make the UID also, that we could expose it that way. And in this case, we put it in the skill. But some interesting things could be like to run the debugger. For example, if we had a debugger agent, we're not there yet. But if it's connected to the IDE, we could expose that stuff. Also, what you saw did take 9 minutes, which I know isn't that long, but it was really making a calculation and putting a label on a form. Most of the 9 minutes was probably thinking and planning and reviewing, not the actual development work. But I think by adding more of the things that are in Servoy's IDE as MCP endpoints, you can really cut down on the amount of the context, the amount of tokens or compute, AI compute that you spend, and the amount of time. Like if I found that you maybe rename a form as a command in the IDE, it instantly renames it and refactors it, and it takes a split second, and you're done. If you ask the AI to do that, it'll think about it, it'll write a plan, it'll it'll read the file and all this stuff, and it wastes a lot of tokens and a lot of time to do that. And we have a lot of that stuff directly in the IDE. So we think by creating this MCP opening, we can facilitate agents to do things much faster and cheaper and more accurately. The other thing that you would have noticed was that whole multi-agent workflow. That's not really like a product or a specific technology. It's more of a convention for ways you can do things with tools like OpenCode or Claude Code, these AI coding harnesses, where you can set up a way that your agents work. They don't have to work in that way, but what we have is quite nice, because we even have, like, it starts from a Jira ticket and it goes all the way through to writing the end-to-end test. You could have it write documentation. You could you could do things differently. But that was also what you saw in that demo, and I think that's important, because if you just take one single agent, the context gets very large, and if it's a larger job, then typically the results aren't as good. If you give each agent a smaller specific job, you get you spend fewer tokens and you get a more accurate result. On top of all of that, you also want to layer in your own project, right? You have your own domain knowledge that the AIs probably want to understand, and it can be a generic thing or a pattern thing, like, hey, well, coding conventions, or we always do things this way. But it could also be very specific things that it understands about, the application that you're building. So all of that kind of comes into play and is used to enrich the agents as they work. So what we're doing at Servoy in terms of bringing this to you is that what you saw in that demo was a coding harness, OpenCode, which is, like I said, the open source version of Claude Code. The reason we're working with that is that it allows us to control it a bit and to integrate it better with the IDE and provide a lower touch experience, because it's not easy to get these coding agents to work correctly, to provide them the information they need and the tools and everything. So we want to provide that as a more connected Servoy sort of packaged experience. But we will deliver it the Servoy way, so things are open and extensible for those hackers out there that like to do things, or if you need to get inside the multi-agent workflow, or right, we could provide templates for that. But if you needed to hack that, there could be ways to do that. So again, we try to go with open source tooling and make things transparent and less of a lock-in as possible. So we'll have more on this. This is not yet publicly released, but we will be inviting. We will have an open invitation for people that want to be a tester or be a collaborator.
Hey, Sean.
Okay,
Few questions. Yep. John asked, is this for the demo you just did? Is this for Servoy Cloud only, or can you leverage this on premise or local?
Sorry, I had to take a drink real quick. Is it for Servoy Cloud only? Absolutely not. So what you just saw was completely running on like a local PC. I want to be clarified. The solution that I showed was Servoy Cloud, but I was using that as an example of a complex application that is built in Servoy. So the fact that you saw Servoy Cloud was an artifact of that to show how we're working with a multi-agent workflow on our own product, which is also built in Servoy. The other part that I mentioned about the end-to-end testing, you do have to if you want to, automate. I mean, you can automate end-to-end tests on your own. We have a nice low-touch tool that's available. It's been around for a while. The Servoy Cloud Pipelines, and part of that, it automatically builds tests and can deploy to servers. And as part of that, you can do unit testing and end-to-end testing. The multi-agent workflow that you saw writes the end-to-end test that will also be automated in Servoy Cloud, but nothing that you saw is requires that you build or host in Servoy Cloud.
Okay, great. Another attendee asked, what's the accuracy rate like for AI generated Servoy scripting, and how do you validate generated code?
Yeah, so so we don't have like great benchmarks right now. To get to what you just saw, first of all, there's a human reviewer for everything. We're not yet at the point where we ship code that we didn't read. There are people that do that. They actually have merge queue agents that actually review again and then make the git commit or merge the branch, right? So you can keep extrapolating this, but for what you saw, this is very much a controlled environment. We have people watching it before we make any git commits, and we don't really have a benchmark yet on accuracy. What we did do is kind of go the other way around. We sort of, I don't want to say train, because people like us don't train models, but we've been feeding it examples, so to speak, and developing these this better, this intelligence layer that way, and doing some experiments. But we don't really have like a comprehensive, because we haven't collaborated yet on any other big projects other than our own. That said, I find that writing code is getting pretty good. It's a bit more like an abstract thing. What it gets wrong is like it didn't do things the way you wanted, or it didn't understand the intent, or like it's past the point where it writes code that is syntactically bad. It doesn't mean it doesn't write code that has errors. One of the things that we added is an MCP endpoint to check for the build markers in Eclipse, because we already, as soon as you make a file change, we have a whole process where we scan the build and look for errors and warnings. So we give that access to the agents. So after they build something, they can check, like, did I reference something that doesn't exist, or do something, and then it can look for the build markers and then correct itself. But we're getting there. I think that's a great question, and I hope that we can provide something a little bit more concrete in the future.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, I have more demos. How are we doing on time?
You're at the 35-minute mark. So.
Okay, good. All right, I'll step on the gas a bit. That's kind of a long demo, because you got to watch the agent do its thing. Everything else is shorter. Another area that we're looking into is a bit more, I don't say visionary, but ambitious, which is and this guy I think comes a bit from Ron. He's always was asking asking me and my colleagues, can I just tell it to build me a CRM, right? Back when we were having to instruct agents to, like, add a label to a field, or make a relation, or do something very low level. And he's saying, yeah, can build me a CRM. So I take that as a serious challenge. So I want to know, if you were starting an application today, can you build something new on Servoy from high level prompting, like build me a CRM or an ERP or something, maybe a little bit lower level, but something to that effect. So in this demo, I want to do just that. I guess I don't have to come out of the slideshare to do that. So we are over here in the browser. Can you guys see my browser again? I just want to confirm. I have just a screenshot pasted in.
Yep, I see it.
Yep. Okay. So using the Servoy intelligence layer, I'm going to call it, the skills and MCP and all that stuff. Using that intelligence layer, I did this demo about 2 weeks ago for my colleagues, where I just gave it the example database, and I said, literally, make me an application. And you can see the prompt here, and I'm just telling it at a high level. Use all the entities that are there that connect to, make relations. Don't show foreign keys, right? That sort of thing. I also gave it a bit of a style guide that you'll see that it did do styling, but I gave it. I was experimenting with giving it design tokens, which is a like a kind of a protocol for like a style guide. It's like a JSON format. So I did give it. I was experimenting with that so that it would produce like a consistent look and feel across the application. And then I did literally. I was leaving. I was stepping out. I was like, "Don't ask me questions," or I was running in YOLO mode a bit, which means like no permissions or full permissions. I just said I'm going to step out. Don't ask me questions, and I let it run for a while, burn a bunch of tokens, and come back and see what it made. And hang on, I got to move all my team stuff in the way. Next tab is what it made. Oh, no, that's the second prompt. Sorry, let me show you this one. This is it. Okay, so this is what it made. I can't really pause this. It's an animated GIF, but it did make, it wired together navigation. You can see that it formatted numeric stuff like currencies. It did like the hero section I asked it about. Let me do that again. And you can see that it got the NG grids right. It is showing related data in grids. It just kind of got most of the things I was checking for right on a single prompt. And I wasn't telling it, I didn't say go out and make relations necessarily or go out and make value lists. I told it, show related data. So it figured out that it made the relations, it made a plan and made the relations and made the value lists that it needed and did the formatting and all of that, right? And this is also fully responsive with a style. It modified the theme properties. It made a style sheet and all of that. So then I was looking. I said that's pretty good. I could only see one record at a time, so I asked it this one in the next prompt, which is can you add, I'll zoom in a bit, can you add a simple nav grid to each form, just one column with the main field. I didn't tell it what field. I sort of said main field, like i.e. company name, but sort of what's the main column you would show in a navigation grid, and I had it do that, and there you can see that it then added the grid here, like products and orders, employees. I specifically told it not to write code, so it didn't like write calculations or anything to join employee first name, last name, or anything like that. But it went in and put that grid in a consistent spot on each form, and it just worked. And that was the second prompt. So I built this in 2 prompts. I like end-to-end test writing. I fear doing responsive development. I'm not very good at it, and it was able to do the responsive layout correctly, so things were in like a 2-column setup and they would grow and shrink and all of that. So I was really happy that it was able to also kind of prove that there is a capability there to pass off that low level control and really get into high level prompting. it's sort of I wouldn't say this is a, anything that we can ship today, but this is an indication of where I think we can get to pretty quickly. Okay. Back to my slide deck. So again, this is the prompt I gave it, but I already showed you that screenshot. So why do we think that that we can kind of continue on this this track? At first, I had this intuition that this was the reason, but it really took a while to validate till we made this intelligence layer and started this project. That one of the reasons people choose Servoy is that you get a production-ready enterprise stack. You're not having to compile things or stitch together some frameworks or manage different dependencies of different libraries. That it is a production-ready stack, and when you save it, you can run it essentially, right? There's a debug client right in the IDE, and kind of what you build is what you get when you deploy it as well. So I think that's well suited for agentic development, because if you kind of ask an agent to build something in Java, they are really good at Java or .NET or Angular or whatever lower level languages or frameworks you want to use. They're really good at it because it's in their base training, and so they get the languages really right. Probably with some context engineering, they get the result really right too. But at the end of the day, you still have to maintain that code base. You have to deploy it. You have to fix bugs. You have to, even if you're using AI to do all of that, there's still a level of control that you get. The other thing is that Servoy is an abstraction of an application, right? A form is not source code so much as it is like, it has these labels and these fields and these, these components, and it's not the code that actually generates the markup or anything like that. It's a very high level abstraction. So I think that's two things. One is agents make fewer mistakes because there are fewer options, but also the token spend is lower because it only needs to make an FRM file. It only needs to make a less file. It doesn't need to write a lot of code, unless it starts trying to do things in solution model, then it will. But fortunately, they seem to like the FRM files and the simple JSON formatting of Servoy artifacts. So I think that we're in a good position to continue on this path and to make sure that agents can make consistent applications built in Servoy. And it sort of fits our mission too. We want to continue to make it easy to make applications, and doing the agentic development stuff to get that set up and working is not easy. So we want to help there, and we also want people to make great applications, and the definition of great changes over time, like cloud, web, mobile, a few years ago was how we were helping, and I think here, when we look at the runtime track, that's what we mean, is that people will expect this level of intelligence in the applications that they build as well, which is the whole runtime track. On this topic, I have another demo. This is the Titanium migrator. Tuan, how are we doing on time?
We're good. We actually had a few questions. Did you want to try to answer before we do this demo, or you want to wait till the end? 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to answer them quickly. This is the one other main demo, then we'll revisit some of the runtime use cases quickly. Well, I'll go through that really quick. So yeah, let's have questions.
Yeah, one question's about how many tokens did the prompts use up? Do you remember for your Big Bang demo?
For the Big Bang demo, it was in the tens of thousands.
Okay.
So not crazy. I tried it again the other day. I was doing something and I did go over 100,000, but something wasn't going right. So yeah, I don't know. We think we can bring that down because this is with very little tooling from the IDE side, from the MCP side, mostly with context management. So I think we can get that down quite a bit, and that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on. in the coming weeks and months is getting things from a okay, this is possible phase to how do we make something that's, you know, a lot more productized and smart. So
Great. One more question about, I guess, when you in your Big Bang demo, you showed it was like partially responsive, but there's questions about how can we make something fully responsive, and
no,
is
that
that
was fully
supported you?
that was fully
It
responsive.
was fully responsive.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was fully responsive. Yeah, yeah. I think that there was one the outer form with the side nav in it just was
Mhm.
CSS position. Every other content form was fully responsive. I didn't really. I could show that. I actually have that solution in my workspace. I could bring it up and show it. It is like if you hide the side nav, everything grows and
It
stretches.
stacks and
Yeah,
whatnot. Okay.
yeah,
Got it.
it stacks.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
Cool. Yep, that was one of the questions that they had to ask if you maybe
And in
use the
fact,
skills or something. But
on
yeah.
that, the agents are so like I was having it use CSS grid inside the forms. I didn't tell it to do that, but it's sort of in the
Mm.
a bit of the knowledge base. And they really get they do CSS so well that it's just so much easier. Like
Yep.
it just makes it like it. I didn't say do 2 columns on this form or whatever. You could do that, right? But it just gets it. It's like, oh, I'll use CSS and do this because it's in the base training.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps.
Okay.
But
But this is next. I'm going to toot my other colleague Tuan's horn a bit because he's been working a lot with. We have a task force in Servoy, a small team that has been researching and developing a better process to help customers move from older versions, and particularly the classic clients like the desktop smart client and the classic web client to the modern Titanium client. And this was a good candidate to also do some AI development work on, just because it directly helps our customers. It helps us too if our customers are able to catch back up to the modern offering, and it keeps them engaged. So we really wanted to focus on this. So what we did is kind of, I put the word train in quotes because we don't train models, but we sort of train the AI or give the AI intelligence on from past migrations, and really have dramatically reduced the effort it takes to modernize a legacy application built in Servoy. So let me get into the click-through demos on that. We are now here, if I have everything in order. So what I'm showing here is animated GIF from a real customer who is running a smart client application. And this is an application I know because I remember being involved in it 2010 or 11 or something. Like, I mean, I'm sure they've done stuff since then, but this is a smart client application. You can see all the modal dialogues and all that stuff. So this is a very typical, it's a complex accounting system, lots of screens, lots of code. And we worked with this customer with some of the AI tooling that we've been building. And I show the Titanium result. Now the goal here is not to make a brand new fancy looking application. So step one is to move it to the new platform, the new client type as is, but make sure that it actually works. And so you can see that as the user clicks through the application, it more or less looks the same and works the same. All the modal forms work, and those were using the old dialogues plugin. And there's all these things where when you get into a migration project, we initially did have some scripts to help with some of the easier stuff, but you encounter one new thing, and you're like, oh yeah, there's this, there's a custom bean, there's a Tuan did a lot of these. He knows like all these little gotchas that come up that you didn't know you would encounter. So what we did is every time we encounter something, we feed it back into the, again, I'm going to use the word training, but it's not really the right word, but we feed it back into that intelligence so that we can, at the next time, we can better automate it. The other thing we do is that we actually do this in a very sort of engineering methodical way. We create an inventory of everything that needs to be addressed, and there's a strategy to address everything in that inventory. So in this solution that I just showed you, they actually had 17 modules, right? 124 forms, and you can see that we auto converted a very good percentage of it. We also flag things that need to be done manually or need to be reviewed. And as we go through these projects, and we keep updating the intelligence, the number of things that are unresolved goes down, and the number of things resolved goes up. And there's fewer sort of manual work to do at the end. Some things like you see dynamic UI could be like solution model or someone doing elements working on a component level, which maybe is not supported. Some things like unsupported beans or plugins or that sort of thing. Another big one is reports. If there was the old form reporting, but that's coming up in another topic that we cover. But overall, you can see that the result is not only impressive in terms of the amount of things that are auto converted, but also the amount of determinism for an AI project that is in this. We had a question a few minutes ago about how accurate something is. In this case, our approach is a little bit different. We're not letting an AI kind of do its creative work and solve problems on the project itself. We do that up front, and then we have deterministic tooling that actually solves the patterns, right? So the result is that we can do this without spending a lot of tokens, but it's also very fast and very accurate. So the approach is a little different. Now, maybe that we also have to do a bit of the AI creativity side for some of the more challenging things. Like if you wrote a form and solution model in web client in 2008, maybe have an AI analyze that and rewrite it is the way to go. So, but we're making really good progress. And if you are one of those people that is not on the latest version, and especially not on the latest client type, there's a lot of hope for you to be able to fix that this year and without too much effort. That's all I'm going to show for that demo. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Congrats to Tuan and his team. They're doing a great job with that. And again, we're going to announce a way to collaborate in this project as we continue it, and an invitation to our hackathon this year. I'll get to that at the end. Questions on that? Okay. Now I get to the other half of the whole AI and software development equation, which is how you build stuff, but also what you build. And we focused a lot on this earlier in the year and last year. And I want to just kind of give an update of where we're at on that. I have a couple really short demos, but this is more of like an update because we already covered this. The AI Runtime Plugin has been in the wild now for quite a few months. If you haven't seen the last webinar or you haven't checked out that plugin, please do. It's there's a lot you can do with it just right off the bat, and we are also looking to improve it as needed. So on the runtime track, we had a summit at our headquarters in Amsterdam back in March, as I was saying, with a mostly focused on the runtime side of things. And we kind of got in the room with several customers and did sort of a deep dive on potential use cases for them to embed AI capabilities into the applications they build. And we did see some common patterns emerge that we kind of took and can address from there. We also committed together with these customers to do kind of proof of concepts to bring some of these things to fruition, and so that all the companies involved can learn and the community can benefit. A few of the patterns that we saw, and that I'll get into. One notable one is document intelligence. And this is really, if you think about any data that either your organization sits on or your customers, if you sell software that they might sit on, that's not integrated into the business process because it's unstructured, right? You have to open a document and read it to then take that context and apply it to maybe some business process you're doing in the application. These are areas that are ripe for acceleration, and that's one of the POCs that we took away from that summit. The other one, we're actually we have a name for it. We call it "Talk to Your Data" because it literally feels like that. I've demoed this in the last webinar as a prototype, but a lot of our customers at that summit and also some other ones are very interested in this approach, and so we've decided to kind of formalize that and commit to making that more of a product than just a thing you could build with the runtime plugin. And then there's a bunch of other use cases. The only other one I'll mention is reporting. There's a lot of people have reports, many static reports. Some have hundreds of reports. Some do reports on behalf of their customers, and typically those are manual to build and to maintain, and it's probably pretty low-hanging fruit to have AI generate or operate on these reports, or just completely dynamically generate a report, because if you think about it, a report is kind of answers a question. If you had a user that could just ask a question and the AI can say, oh, well, let me generate this report for you, or you could say, hey, every Tuesday morning I want this report, right? And you could tweak it and personalize it. That's kind of how we're thinking about this. So let me get into a few of these use cases that we did with some of our customers. And the first one I'll highlight is Flender, who is a manufacturer of, among other things, the gearboxes that go in the really big wind turbines. And they have a whole QA process set up for their production workflows that they built in Servoy. But they also have a lot of what we call dark data, like unstructured data, that is still part of their production process and is still valuable, but doesn't really get integrated into the whole process. So we sat together with them and looked at how they could incorporate that sort of document intelligence into their process. In this, I won't get into the details, but essentially there's some files that certify some engineering or chemical composition specifications that go into the inputs for a manufacturing run. And those files are generally PDFs. They do have some text files that go with it that sometimes can be like the ground truth, but a lot of times they just don't have a way to easily kind of understand what's in those documents and combine that with their process. So what we did together is look at how we can do some document understanding with that, and they can at least understand how good these documents are and how well they match up to what they think is going on in their production cycle, and they can also flag what documents could be problematic. So in order to do that, what we found during the process was, and I'll get to this in a demo, that a lot of documents are not really nice PDFs that have text in them. They're scanned images, or they have scanned images in them. And if you hand those over to the runtime plugin, what I already showed demos of, like document understanding in the last webinar or two. But if you hand it a scanned image, it doesn't do too well. Now, if you paste it into ChatGPT or something, it works nicely, but what they're doing is taking it in and preparing it and everything. And that, in terms of like giving documents to AI companies, a lot of folks like Flender don't want to do that. So we also were considering privacy as well as the problems with just taking an image. So let me give you a demo of the OCR plugin. This was an output of that. When we realized, oh, geez, a lot of their documents are not PDFs, they're just PDFs with images in them. So let me switch over to, in this case, I have a running solution. Well, first, let me show you a sample document. This is not one of Flender's engineering documents. I just took a sample internet file off the internet, but this has some engineering specs, so I thought it looks good. It's a piston engine. In this is the, by the way, the example AI solution, which is on GitHub for you all to enjoy. It has samples that every sample that I've ever shown is here, and I add to this. This is not on GitHub, but I added to it in the menu here the OCR plugin example, and this is a pretty simple 5-minute demo. I'm going to select a file. In this case, my sample engineering spec, the file I just showed you. I'm going to upload it. Now I'm going to run the OCR plugin, which is one line of code. I won't even show you the code. It's just like plugins, OCR, extract text. There are some settings, of course, you can set. And then that's not a PDF that I showed you. That is an image. So there's no text in that you could copy. So I OCR'd it, and now I give it. Now what I do is I take the OCR content and I hand it over to an LLM, and I say do something with this. In this case, I say convert this to a structured JSON payload. Never mind that I misspelled structured. So this takes that content and gives it to an LLM, and you can see that it generates the some of those engineering specs into a JSON payload. I didn't really tell it what I want. You could also ask a question like, what is the max RPM and what? Sorry, I can't type. What kind of lubricant? I don't know if this will work, but let's try it. Okay, so max RPM is 7,200. The lubricant's 5W20, and here you can see max RPM 7,200, and it got the lubricant wrong. 5W30 synthetic. Did it say 5W20? So, so there's an example of an error. Now, what we did in I'm okay with showing you that there was an error because I'm not saying this is the greatest OCR plugin in the world. What we did in the POC is the OCR plugin will also report regions of lower confidence and that sort of thing. So when we process a document, we can also flag it if it had regions of low confidence, and that you can manually review the results or something like that. So I think it's good to show that these make mistakes, and as long as you can kind of catch the mistakes and provide a human in the loop kind of review, or have another agent or something review it, then there's a way to deal with that. So that's the OCR demo. The plugin is not released. But again, if you are doing some document stuff and you find that that you have trouble with images because you can't just strip the text out of the PDF like you can with a runtime plugin, this could be for you. But again, by invitation, let us know. The plugin is not yet ready for production, but it could be if we had some more use cases. So so please work with us if you think this applies to you. I'll go through the next POC and then we'll do a wrap up of the roadmap. Another customer we worked with pretty early on is Royal Force Systems. They're one of the leading providers of logistics software and warehouse management systems specifically. And they have, of course, a complex database, and some of the tables in their database have many records, and they saw the prototype for the Talk to Your Data and wanted to try it out on their own database. And I also wanted to see how that approach works on a production grade database and not just the customer order details database. So we collaborated with Royal Force Systems on some sample data that they had given us, but a large schema and a large data set. And we were able to give them a working solution. It was a short time frame, but they were going to their user conference and they wanted to demo it to their users as well, and show them what was possible to try to get a bit of to show AI on the roadmap, but also to validate the use case. Right, you got to show these things to users to see if how it lands. And if I look at so here, I'm going to show you, this is the original the original prototype. So you probably have seen this before if you were in the last webinar. If you look at it's in the sample solution. So you could literally ask your database a question. It will answer the question. It will generate a chart. This is just a prototype, an idea of what you could do. It could generate a report too. That could be another outcome. But taking this idea then to a production system where you can also ask questions, and that could look something like this. Again, this is just some sample data about a warehouse management system. Tell me about my warehouse at a high level. Tells you all of the inventory on hand, how you're doing on fulfillment, how many open tasks you have. You can see that there's the quantity of items in that database are in the millions. They have a task breakdown by status, etc. Again, we kind of put this on a production database, but not a production grade database. What we also did was add a layer of sort of correction, right? So I don't think it really made SQL mistakes because again, these models really know SQL, right? So if you say, here's my database, generate SQL, it will get the SQL right, but it might not understand the intent and apply it correctly. So there's a whole enrichment, again, sort of an intelligence layer about your data model that you can provide. But also when it makes a mistake, you might say, yeah, for that, do this, right? And you want to remember that. So you want that, like that reinforcement layer when it gets something wrong, even if it's not a SQL error, if you want it to give it a better answer. So we sort of kind of built that in so Royal Ford could take it and tweak it before they showed it to their customers because it was getting some things wrong or some things it needed to know more about their database. So this, again, a lot of customers were interested in this. And so we decided we're gonna try to put this a bit more into the product that you guys can use and included with that to do some things with generating Jasper reports dynamically, which also helps people coming from legacy clients that had the built-in form reporting, because we could probably convert that. And if you imagine this running production, there's a whole layer of like, how do you configure it? How do you enrich your data model? How do you give it feedback and teach it to do things differently when you get something unexpected? How do you monitor it and understand how people are using it and if it's doing well? So we're sort of thinking about that whole operational level and putting that a bit more into the product that you could take advantage of it. So that's coming this year. And if you're interested in collaborating on that, please reach out to us. We plan to show this in the next update because we have it in progress right now in Servoy. Okay, my throat's drying up, but we're at the end of the webinar. I want to give a few product updates here about what we're doing this year. You saw that we have this Titanium Migrator toolkit that we've been working on. The 2024 LTS is coming end of life when the 2026 LTS comes out. We know that impacts a lot of customers, so we decided that we would add 1 extra year of support on the 2024 LTS because getting to off of Smart Client or Web Client is no small task for larger applications. So you do have an extra year of critical support on 2024. So in that time, we hope that you can plan to get off of those legacy clients and onto the Titanium client. And we have this AI-powered tooling to help with that. So let's plan together how you can make that happen in the next year. As a result, we are going to sunset 2025 early. So I don't have a time frame for that yet, but it will be shortly after the 2026 LTS comes out. We'll have a window to sundown 2025. So as soon as 2026, you can go to 2026.3 now because that's the foundation for the LTS. But if you want to wait for the LTS, you can wait for the LTS. But then shortly after that, we'd like to sunset the 2025. If you think this affects you and I think that the change should be mostly trivial, but if you think this affects you, go ahead and reach out to me or your Servoy contact to discuss if you need some help with this or if it's going to impact you. We do understand that that's shortening the notice that's normally given for an LTS build, and that's the whole point of LTS is the L part. But let us know. But for those of you on 2024, also reach out to us if you want to participate in the Titanium Migrator. And any of the things you've seen here, you can get involved with us. So we are having our hackathon in Spain in September this year, and we're now inviting folks to join us. We're going to send out that invitation shortly. But essentially, bring your application to us. We're going to do a couple tracks. The most notable will be this Titanium Migrator, because we know a lot of you are not yet on Titanium. If you bring us your application, we'll sit together with our tooling, which is already quite good, and help you get most of the way there. We think we can really treat it like a hackathon and get you advanced there. So if you are already on Titanium, but you see some things that you'd like to do on the runtime AI side, we're also able to focus on that at the hackathon. So please keep that in mind. If you saw some things on the agentic development side that look appealing to you and you've been doing this stuff already and you want early access, we are looking for people to collaborate with and test on the Servoy intelligence layer that we're working on. So please reach out to us. If you saw the Talk to Your Data demo there, if you think that fits what you'd like to do, we already have some customers in collaboration, but we're happy to take on more. The more the merrier. So again, reach out to us. And the OCR plugin that I showed is also available by invitation. Some of the stuff we just don't want to open up yet because it's not quite ready, and we'd like to work with people to get it prime time before we make it a truly supported software component. So that concludes everything I have. Thank you so much. I know it's always long and full of information. I'm ready for questions.
Great. No, we're a little bit over time. There was one question.
Oh, we're a lot over time. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a lot. Yes.
Shoot.
The OCR plugin. One person asked what it was based on. If it's parse PDF or Tesseract. I think it was maybe Java based, right?
No, it's a good question. I forgot to mention that. It's Tesseract. Yeah. So
It's
Tesseract is
okay.
it's a native library for doing OCR. It's CPU based, so it's not like a LLM based or model based. And there's a Java wrapper for it called Tesseract for J. And so we wrapped the wrapper for Servoy. So pretty much anything Tesseract can do, we can do. So that's why we picked that one.
Yep. And then another question from John for the Talk to Your Data project. How much language training was needed? Looks like you entered sales rep. Did it figure out on its own, or did you have to define what that meant in the data?
Yeah, so language, I assume language doesn't mean SQL language because they already know SQL. And training is not the right, we don't train models, but in terms of, we call it like enriching your data model. For the Northwinds database, the customer order detail, it just understood sales rep is employee, right? That's easy. But people have real databases where they have tables that have like 2 character names in them, or they have some relation between 2 tables that is not obvious, like customer ID and the orders table is obvious, but it's not always that obvious. So we are providing that data enrichment layer, and where you can actually configure the and tell it basically like, here's how to understand my database, right? And that gets fed into the to it. And then you can also do things like tell it. It will look at value lists, for example, because you might have values. So for one thing, we don't show the LLM your data, right? We never show it your data. It's a lot of people think that AI you give them your data, but a lot of times you don't. We just show it the schema and this context layer. So if you have values in your database that mean something, like what you would normally use a value list for. We can pass it the value list so that it understands how to treat those. So, but all of the SQL queries are done by the Servoy runtime, so it doesn't really connect to your database. There's no issue with that.
Yep, that's a great point. Okay, thank you, Sean. I think we've answered everything, and then the rest, I think Johan is managing that in the chat as well, so we're good.
Okay, thanks, Johan.
All right, that was a lot, Sean.
Yeah, sorry.
17 minutes over time, but I think you're forgiven because it was good content.
Okay.
I think.
I can't see the clock when I'm presenting. Sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We'll stop you if you get boring. So, yeah, a lot of good things happening. Really, guys, our event in Spain, we're really looking for customers who want to join us there, and we will. I told the team we'll invite 4 to 5 customers, and we will convert their legacy client app in 2 days. So if you are on Smart Client, Web Client, or NG Client, we will take on the challenge to convert it completely in 2 days. So if you are interested in that, reach out, and we'll have you come out to Spain and do that with a team. Because I think that's really, really important, and it will really show the value of AI and how we do that, and our commitment to customers rolling forward. The other thing that we keep on hammering on a bit is we're also looking for customers that we want to do AI infusion projects with, right? So how can AI help your customers for the ISVs or your users, if you're an enterprise, do their work better and quicker, or do more work with the same amount of people? Because I think the really frontier of AI is not just in software development. It's really about how this will help business users do their job better and quicker, especially. So, and that frontier is, I feel, still hardly touched. Although we've put our AI plugin into the Servoy runtime really early on, and that's pretty mature. And we really are looking also forward to having customers do with us those proof of concepts, and we're dedicated to that. So yeah, please reach out to me, Sean, the team, sales, or whoever you know at Servoy. It doesn't matter, and we're there for you. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Juan, and a lot of thanks for the big group this time joining us in this webinar. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.